Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last part on Cuisenaire rods. Not that there couldn't be more to do, but for now, we'll make this our last session and we can always add more on if people would like more. So we're going to look at changing the values of the rods. And I want to say there was one session earlier, which I've already edited because I made a mistake. And when I put the value of the rod on there, so I really want to make sure that we don't catch anybody off guard and that you didn't make any mistakes. But we want to talk about the changing the value of the rods because, as I mentioned in the previous sessions, we don't have to keep them just from 1 to 10. So we want to leverage these for everything that they could be used for. So at the very, very beginning of doing Cuisenaire rods, we had you lay them out, one of every color, and sort of put them in an order. Most of you probably put them in this order. But what we learned was that it took 2 whites to make a red, it took 3 whites to make a green, 4 whites to make a purple, and so on, or 2 reds to make a purple, and so on. So there were different values, and we created the unit fractions using that idea. And we learned that this is exactly 1 centimeter. These are 1 centimeter in length. So you can put them on a centimeter grid. You can put them on a ruler, and the kids will be able to see how they measure out. So that made this 1. That made, because 10 of them lined up for the orange one, that made that value 10. But what if I had said initially that the white one is not 1, but in fact, a white one is equal to 10. So let's use 1. Remember to model for students before we really kind of throw another question out at them and not rescue them by giving them the answer. Let them muck through it for a while and see if they can figure it out. This is 10. Then the question is, what is a red one? And if they say it's 11, well, let's think about this just for a minute. How many white ones did it take to make a red? Well, 2 of them. And I can line them up and show them again. So if each one is a white as a 10, and I need 2 of them to make a red, that would mean that the red has a value of 20. So then they're going to catch on pretty quick. That means that it takes 3 white ones to make a green one, so that has a value of 30. So eventually what we're doing is we're working up the ladder till we get to the top one, which is the orange, which will then have a value of 100. Okay, so then once they get the hang of that, they think, oh, okay, that's pretty easy. That's something I can do. But now let's think about for a moment, let's throw just a slight twist onto that. So if they understood this, and you say to them again, I want you to explain and think about how did you get the values for each one? Using the white one is always a good coming point. What if I said to you that the white one was 11? Then what does that make the red one? What does that make the green one? Or a really tricky question might be, don't ask them all of them. Just say, what does the yellow one become? They're going to work them all out anyway, but what is the yellow one going to be? Well, if this is 11 and 2 of these make a red one, that makes the red one 22. You see the pattern. 3 of them make a green one, so that'll make it 33. So it doesn't take them long to figure out that this is 55. So you are not bound by saying that these are stuck to 1 to 10. You can change the values. And in actual fact, they kind of think it's a neat challenge when you come in and say, what's it worth today? So just changing it up every day, just giving them, it doesn't really change the proportions in any way, but it does change what value and number they're going to come up with. So it's a good sort of 5-minute startup, warm up at the beginning of your class to say, what's the value of the brown one if the white one is? What's the value of the blue one if the white one is? So you can do something like that. Or here's another question that I'm going to give to you. If the yellow one is equal to 1, so let me just get rid of this one. The yellow one is equal to 1. What is the value of the white one? So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to ask you to think about that for just a minute. What is the value of the white one? Think about ways that you would do that. Think about ways that your students would tackle that question. Well, how are we doing? So in the meantime, while you were taking a gander at the question, I've also laid out what some things are that would fit into this or into this conversation. And that would be, I'm just going to move these up so we get rid of that one glare there. That's where these 10 blocks come in handy. So what I see is I knew that the yellow one was a 1. That's what I wanted to call a 1. But remember, the proportions of each of those rods hasn't changed. They're still in the same proportion that they were before. So when we first started, we found that the yellow was equal to 5. It took 5 white ones lined up to make a yellow. So this is still 1/5 of whatever this is. Okay? If this is 1, 1/5 of 1 is how much? And so this is where we go back to our money work that we did. This is where we go back to our unit fraction work that we did. So 1/5 of something. Okay, we talk about that. So where am I going with this? We're already into fractions and we're going to get into decimals now. So if that's the case, and we want to make sure that we've done those number learner outcomes before we tackle these kinds of questions. And these are definitely within the realm of grades 4, 5, and 6 to do. Now, grade 4s, remember, do values to hundreds, but they have to have some practice first at doing 100th and how that gets written and what that looks like and how they interpret that. And that would come from money to start with. So now I can look at this and say, all right, well, if this is 1, and I had to divide each one of these into equal pieces, well, the same thing's still true. 2 of these will make a red. 3 of these will make a green. 4 of these will make a purple. 5 of these made the yellow. So if 5 of these laid across made one whole, that means that each one of these is 1/5 or 0.2. So now I'm into decimals. So if this one is 0.2 or 1/5, it took 2 to make a red one. So a red one would be double that amount, or 0.4, or 2/5. 2 1/5 counts, 2 units 1/5 long. This one would be 0.6, or 3/5. And this one would be 0.8, or 4/5. So these simple little 1 to 10 rods suddenly take on pretty different meaning, and they can be used for a number of different possibilities now. So a logical question would be, hate that glare, I'm sorry. If this is the 1, then what's the orange? And what's everything in between? Tomorrow you could come in and say the yellow or the green or the black is 1. What's everything else? Now, 1/7 isn't a nice, beautiful unit fraction to be having them divide. So depends on what question you're asking me to figure out. If you're asking me to write it as a unit fraction, that's one thing. But if you're asking me to write it as a decimal, that's not a very nice number. So we want to pick things that are good to use. So this is where I just wanted to do a short little video on, I am not stuck to making these 1 to 10. They have lots and lots of different potentials. You just need to be upfront about what's the value of a particular rod so that I can figure out what the rest of them are. Okay, thanks so much, everyone.